So I'm here, and just for our members' sake, when we edit this meeting with Bill Pollock, Chairman and founder of Drake International. And just to give you a brief history, it was Amanda O'Brien that you met with at the Canadian-Australian Chamber of Commerce breakfast on gender diversity. And thank you for meeting with us. For our members' sake, would like if you could give me a brief background on how you got where you're at. And I know you came from humble roots in, I believe, Winnipeg in Canada, and started with a lawn business, working up through IBM and ending with office overload. Do you want to expand and explain how you got from there to here?
Well, when I graduated from university, I went to work for a company called the Burroughs Corporation, which was a bookkeeping machine company, and I was selling bookkeeping machines in those days to companies that were largely converting from manual accounting methodology to bookkeeping machines. And in so doing, in order to sell the machines, I got in the habit of measuring the productivity of the workers if they used our modern equipment. Their productivity was using the manual methods. And I discovered, to my amazement, that the workloads of the individuals were fluctuating quite dramatically.
Of course.
From week to week, month to month, different times of the year, and so on. And I realized that they were paying full-time salaries for part-time jobs for people to do that work. And I saw an opportunity there to outsource the peak loads and start a business whereby we could process the peak loads on our premises, and thereby clients could cut their staff numbers by 10, 15, 20, 30%.
Fantastic.
And so my late partner and I decided to start that business as an outsourcing company. It's basically a profit improvement company to improve profitability. But also we saw the great advantage that instead of having to invest in a bookkeeping machine and get your return over the next 2, 3, 4 years, you got your return immediately with no investment.
Absolutely. And it sounds like hence the modern temp agency was born, really.
Yes.
Fantastic. So from there, you've grown now with over 1,500 employees, over 10 countries, and you're still very involved in the business. You're still very boots on the ground. What drives you to just keep going and going?
Well, I find the challenge of new things quite fascinating, and I guess I'm a basic entrepreneur at heart. I've been in many different businesses besides this business as well, ones that are basically related to human capital, and so we've sold some of those off over the years.
Just keep growing and
but
growing.
Kept our core business.
And I heard a rumor, I don't know where, this was years ago, that you, in your own productivity, have your own version of Pollock shorthand, where you use a whole bunch of acronyms when you're typing and writing inter-office. Is that a true rumor?
Yes, it's true, because back in high school days, I was promoted to be in a particular, I don't know what you'd call it, a high-level class, that we were the highest performing students from 2 or 3 different junior highs around that area. And so we were told that we would never have to learn how to type. We were too smart for that, and therefore we did not get typing lessons at high school. And so therefore, once things moved on, and computers came into the world and so on and so forth, and everybody had become a typist, I did not know how to type. So I was a 2-finger typist from the very beginning. And consequently, the opportunity to create abbreviations with technology that would then turn into a word or a phrase was very appealing. And so in order to speed up my typing, I created an abbreviation table that will enable me to speed up my typing and type faster than a normal typist.
So when you're, say, typing a normal memo, you put in your abbreviation and it automatically kicks the sentence in, or the phrase, or the word?
That's right.
That's fantastic.
For example, if I typed just ADTOR, it would come up Drake International Inc., 320 Bay Street, Toronto, and it would give it the zip code, Ontario, Canada.
Fantastic.
All for 5 letters.
We should do that. Well, I think the younger generations come up with that with their little emojis. I don't know if you see that they all type very shorthand on the text with the smiley faces. My daughter makes me crazy because I never understand what she's saying.
Right, well, we have an abbreviation for every word that we use.
Yes.
Not just phrases. So it might be just a short word, but it could also be a 4 or 5 sentence.
Even productivity when you're writing, when you're typing.
Point out to you that I've been persuaded to take this abbreviation table to the market.
You should.
We haven't yet sold it to anyone. We're just planning to do that. But there are more than 77,000 abbreviations in there.
77,000.
So practically anything that you want to type is there, or you can create an abbreviation very easily to take care of your address or personal information or whatever.
So you don't just keep retyping it. So that's amazing. I'm going to watch to see if that you need to do that. Definitely need to do that. So a little bit more, I think I want to jump over, if you don't mind, to the gender diversity. And I found it interesting that you were one of the, if you want, pioneers in the field back in the 50s and 60s with trying to draw women and housewives into the workplace, which was a bit taboo. You coined a phrase, get a new lease on life.
Right.
I know growing up, my grandmother was your typical secretary, and my mother was a secretary and even did the shorthand classes and the typing and the dictation, but it was still, they were frowned on a bit for working when they should be home raising the family, which is a completely different world now. How do you view gender diversity in the workplace globally? But I'm probably, and our members would be very interested in, not only globally, but how Australia is falling into suit with the changing of the times.
Well, I think that if I can just tell you about my own experience, we had to turn to women to handle our peak load activities for clients because the workloads that we took on were seasonal or one-time events or just repetitive events from time to time. And so we needed people who could work 2, 3, 4 days a week or weekends and to process the work. And so consequently we pointed or targeted the female workforce to do that and to try to get people to come back to work because most of them after they got married stopped working. And then of course we finally evolved into the temporary office help business. We didn't intend to get into that business. We didn't know such a thing would exist. But it was the clients who told us that they couldn't send the work out, we'd have to send the people in. So that's what took us into temporary office help. And so as time went on, we were recruiting more and more females. But we found so much talent out there that we were amazed. And therefore, as we grew up, we didn't look just to hire male salespeople. We were the first in the country, really, to turn to female sales reps.
In Canada.
In Canada. Wow. And secondly, we found that the talent that we had was so good that they could become our managers too. So a very large part of our organization in the managerial level was female.
So do you see gender parity in the workplace a struggle in Australia, or do you see it coming a long way? I know I have my own views being here 15 years. But
over the years we've seen it come up and up and up and
yes,
up. So
absolutely.
It's much better in place today than it was way back then.
Yeah.
Much better. But sure, there's still a little bit of difference there that can be brought to bear. But here again, I say that's just a case of people overlooking talent that's sitting in front of them that they could pick up and use.
People overlooking talent. That's interesting. Do you think that's a generational thing? Like as generations attrition out and younger generations come in, that I know I've seen that happen. I came from General Motors in the United States, and I started when I was 20 years old, and it was the senior leadership and the executive leadership were mostly men, and then they all had worked their way up from the factory floor into these high-ranking jobs. But as they retired out, the younger generation was coming up underneath them, was a very good mix of men and women out of engineering school, and came to Australia 15 years later, and it's now just starting to hit that level again. So I see it as more a generational thing. Do you think that that's a driving force with the increase in gender diversity in Australia?
I really don't know the answer to that because to me it's just been something that's evolved and improved over the years. So I still think it's improving and headed in the right direction.
Yes, I do. I do. Fantastic. Now, SCLAA is obviously a big champion, with Amanda being their first female chairwoman ever, and particularly in logistics and supply chain, which tends to be a very male-dominated industry. Do you see, or how do you see Drake International and SCLAA doing things together? How do you see us moving forward to help business in Australia?
Well, we're sort of beholden to women because of the way we grew up, promoting them. And I think that there's lots of room to collaborate with anybody who's got that same objective. Certainly I see a great opportunity to collaborate.
Fantastic. I do too. So I was reading your prioritizing people, which I personally find some workplaces, not all, but some very much struggle.
I do know that we've always set an objective that when we're hiring people, whether it's male or female, the number one thing you're looking for is integrity.
Yes.
And the number two thing you're looking for is willingness and commitment, which means industriousness.
Yeah.
And then number three is ability. So ability is number three. It's not the top ranking thing.
Yes, I know. And finally, 31 Melbourne Cups?
I probably have been to 31 Melbourne Cups, yes.
Is it going to be 32?
I might, if I'm here and I'm available.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, thank you very much.